Hi, my class. So, as you can see, I'm dressed up for World Book Day and I am being Jack from our book, Beware Killer Tomatoes. So, I'm going to read chapter 9, How I Start Investigating as Jack himself. Okay, let's go. Complete chaos. Mrs. Noseworthy had to be given oxygen, and she went and had a sit-down in the restroom for half an hour. Mr. Cutter was lifted on a stretcher and carted away. Mum and Dad sat on my bed looking totally confused, and who could blame them? But it was Maisie who was the focus of attention. Acne Man couldn't believe his ears. He grabbed Maisie and shouted at her, "Can you really talk?" "Yes. Blimey," said Acne Man. Wait, I'll have to test you. See if your brain's all right. How many fingers am I holding up? 3. "Blimey," said Acne Man. What's the capital of Rome? Rome is a capital, answered Maisie. The capital of Italy. "Blimey," said Acne Man. Why is there blood all over your front? It's tomato sauce, Maisie giggled. "Blimey," said Acne Man. She can talk. He announced in case we hadn't noticed. Maisie stood there surrounded by amazed hospital staff while Kathy smiled like it was Christmas Day and she'd just opened the best present. "I was wondering where you'd got to, you little tinker." "I'm not a tinker, I'm a talker," replied Maisie coolly. So I see. And how come you can talk all of a sudden?" "Jack taught me," she said. Everyone swiveled round to look at me. What could I do? I was just as surprised as everyone else. Kathy smiled. "Thank you, Jack. I knew there was something going on between you." "No, there isn't. She's not my girlfriend," I blurted out. "But you're his girlfriend," sniggered Maisie, pointing at Acne Man, who turned into beetroot on the spot, while Kathy blushed a delicate pink. She took Maisie by the hand. "We'd better go upstairs. I think we have some exciting news for your mother." The smile slipped from Maisie's face. As they left the ward, Maisie turned round and glanced back at me. I gave her a thumbs-up sign. She pressed her lips together determinedly, and then they'd gone. Mum and Dad stayed for ages while a cleaner came in and mopped up the spilled tea and the big blobs of tomato sauce that Maisie had somehow managed to spread around the entire ward. It even had her footprints in it. My parents wanted to know everything about Maisie. Mum shook her head sadly. "Strange girl. How can she be cured? Doesn't she know she's deaf?" "Sometimes you have no idea what goes on in their minds," said Dad, and for a moment I didn't know whether he was talking about Maisie or Mum. Why did she pretend to be dead? I knew the answer to that one. "Dad, you have to remember that Maisie is a creature from another universe." "Right," murmured Dad. "That would explain it, I suppose." I was expecting Mr. Cutter to return and interrogate me again, but he didn't, which was only half a relief. He was bound to come back sooner or later, dragging his torture rack with him. It was just a matter of time. There must be something I could do before he returned. Maybe find out something. Long after my parents had gone, Maisie reappeared with Kathy, who went straight across to Acne Man, of course. "Do you think they'll get married?" I asked Maisie. She shrugged. "Who knows? What did you think to my miracle?" "Cool. I thought if I could make something astonishing happen, it would make that policeman go away, and it did." "He'll be back," I added gloomily. "And if it's not him, it'll be a different one. They're all after me." "But you might be innocent. Somebody might have just set you up because they have a grudge against you. Do they do that in movies?" "This is real life, Maisie. I've been thinking about the dead body. We could try and find out more." "Like an autopsy," said Maisie. "They do that on telly in murder mysteries. They open up the dead body and find out how they were murdered." "Yeah, I've seen it on telly too. Gruesome." "Great," beamed Maisie. "I'd love to do that. I'd cut open a body and say, 'Goodness me, Sergeant Lemming, this man was stabbed to death with a drawing pin.'" "You're mad," I chuckled. "Anyway, if you opened the man up under the pyramid, you'd only find tomato tins." I was trying to be funny, but it didn't sound the least bit comical, really. Not to me, I went on. "I thought I could go down to Casualty tomorrow and ask a few questions. I've got this daft bar chart to do for Miss Crispin. I could pretend I want to know about the accidents and stuff." "Yeah, and I could help," said Maisie, putting on her intelligent and helpful face, the one that made her look like she was a very confused mouse stuck in a maze. "I guess," I said doubtfully. "What did your mum say when she discovered you can speak after all?" Maisie gave a hoot of laughter. She was so astonished she couldn't speak. Her face became serious. Then she cried and hugged me, and I almost stopped breathing. I kept thinking of all her tears are going to make a huge puddle, and it had come through the ceiling and crashed down on Jack, and it'll probably drown him and kill him if he doesn't do that all the falling... Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to start that sentence completely again. I kept thinking of all her tears are going to make a huge puddle, and it'll come down through the ceiling, crash onto Jack, and it'll probably drown and kill him. And if it doesn't do that, or all the falling plaster will probably break his other leg. You're daft. Not as stupid as you. Anyway, she cried lots and said she felt so alone, and it was like she'd lost Dad and she'd lost me because I wasn't speaking. There was a short silence. Maisie stared at me hard, and her eyes went sort of shimmery, and she stared at her feet instead. Then she told me that it made me cry too, Maisie said, with a deep sigh. I hate it when people cry. I never know what to do, so I just keep quiet until Maisie suddenly lifted her head and sniffed and grinned at me. And I'm not telling you any more because it's private. It's between me and Mum. Anyway, I can go home now. Oof, that was like a blow. I was surprised how I felt about that, like the breath had been knocked out of me. It wasn't as if we were fantastic buddies or anything. I mean, she's 9 and I'm 11. But she'd been fun and she'd saved me from Mr. Cutter and stopped me dying of boredom and all sorts of things. Liam was going, and now Maisie. I was going to be on my own, apart from Princess Lala, who was about as much fun as a used tissue. But I'll come back to see you tomorrow for tests. So I'll see you then, and I can help you do that investigating. I got that sinking sensation in my stomach, a feeling of fast approaching doom. Somehow the words Maisie, help, and investigating weren't nearly as encouraging as she'd meant them to be. So guys, that is the end of that chapter, and we will be back in class where hopefully we're all wearing different outfits to celebrate different characters of World Book Day. All right, bye guys. Bye.